Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Hi, hello, my name is Loey, and I always feel like I do this thing in the intros of my videos where I talk about something that's completely unrelated to the actual video, but it's usually just because I'm so excited to talk to you guys. I spent my entire day being excited to talk to you guys. I spent the entire time I was getting ready being excited to talk to you guys, and now I just want to tell you a little anecdote about my day. So I'm getting dressed to film, and before I come and I film at my office, I typically pick out a few different outfits so I'm not wearing the same shirt in every video. So I finally put on this shirt and I think it's really cute. It's been sitting in my closet for, gosh, maybe a month and a half. Regardless, it's just been sitting there in my closet. I took the tags off of it and I never wore it. So I was like, tonight's the night, I'm gonna wear this shirt. And I noticed it was just really long. Lo and behold, it is a random sleep shirt that I have been hanging on my closet for months and did not realize it was like a pajama thing. What if I had just worn this to Publix? I feel like it's not that weird. It does genuinely look like a real normal shirt you'd wear during the daytime, but I was laughing pretty hard when I realized I had just hung up one of my pajamas along with all my blouses and sweaters and stuff. Anyways, hello. I'm so excited today because I was scouring the internet for inspiration for videos for you guys today, and something that I wanted to do was talk about some paranormal unsolved mysteries, but there's not a lot of those kind of documented in terms of true crime cases or paranormal 911 calls. There's some stuff, but a lot of it has either been debunked or it's a hoax. So I stumbled across this thought catalog article with all of these Reddit posts of people who talk about their scariest unsolved mystery in their own personal life, and while not all of them were paranormal, most of them were. So I decided to pick those out and read them for you today. So get yourself a snack, get yourself a drink. In my case, I am having a Red Bull because I'm a maniac. I also have an open Lacroix right now. Somebody sent me this thing on Instagram. I'm actually gonna read it to you. Her name is Amber Chanel. She sent me this post on Instagram. If you guys don't think I read my messages, I really do. And I think it's because I'm always drinking Lacroix in my videos. So it says, Lacroix, new flavors, transported in a truck near bananas, hint of lime, single Skittle dissolved in water, shy watermelon. Imagine a strawberry, but with a low battery. And I laughed. Drag me. Anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling and get straight into these scary paranormal unexplained mysteries. This one is called I Woke Up to See Blood Splattered on the Wall. When I was 12, I woke up and saw blood splattered on the wall next to my head. At first I thought it was just a nosebleed in my sleep. Used to get them a lot when I was that age, but there was no blood on me anywhere or any indications of a nosebleed. Ugh, whoever that was handled it a lot better than me, because I would have absolutely lost my mind trying to figure out where it came from. This next one is called I woke up with 3 gashes in my arm and no memory of how they got there. I once woke up with 3 small circular gashes in my arm, all the same size, all equidistant. When I woke up, the door was locked and nothing was out of the ordinary. I spent a lot of time searching my room for something that could have made them, but had no luck. At first I wanted to accuse my brother, but quickly came to the conclusion that he was 5 and had slept in my parents' bed that night. They also slept with their door locked, and he wouldn't have been able to reach the lock at that age. 11 years later, and it's still a mystery. That's actually really creepy. And I genuinely wonder what it was. What in the world could have put circular gashes in someone's arm like that? I do that with my fingers because that's the only thing I can think of is fingertips going in, but nails would have done something, you know what I mean? Ugh, I don't want to know. This one is not paranormal necessarily, but kind of has that tone to it. There was this girl, Rachel, that I had a huge crush on a few years older than me. Nothing ever happened because I was chicken, and she moved across the country after my freshman year. Early the next year, I met her half-sister, same age, and half-brother, my age, and I'm still friends with them today, almost 20 years later. But they will not talk about her. At first they dodged the subject, but now they're just who? She never existed. I can find nothing online except a YouTube video of a high school production of Hello Dolly with her name in the cast from the year she moved to that city. So she existed, but there is nothing else. Super weird. That one was super freaky and honestly just sent chills down my spine, and I felt like I had to talk about it in this video. I don't know. It just really creeped me out. And can you imagine like knowing someone like from your past and then their half siblings won't even talk about them now 20 years later and they still pretend like she just doesn't exist? I don't know. That would really weird me out a lot. It makes me wonder where she is now. This next one is really creepy. My wife's grandmother is one of the few known legitimate victims of spontaneous human combustion. His bones were found in the center of his burned bed. There were signs of smoke around all the windows in the house. Things around his room were melted from the heat. However, nothing other than his bed showed any signs of actually being burnt. It's crazy. That is terrifying. Like literally just reading that, like I'm sitting here and I have chills all over my body. A legitimate cause of death being spontaneous human combustion. I don't even want to know. I don't want to know what led up to it, but I also do want to know so I can avoid all of that. That is so freaking scary. This one is called No One Believes Me, but I See Visions of the Future. Might sound crazy, and I don't really care if anyone believes me, but I get these visions of the future. It's only ever a completely irrelevant image in my dreams that has no context or explanation. I never see any faces, and it's usually of some scenery. So far I've seen like a dozen of them, and every single one of them I have eventually ran into the exact same imagery in the future of my own life. I always see them in real life, never in an online picture. Most memorable one is of a classroom layout. The lights were off, and there was this one window with blinds showing a very specific scenery with a very specific layout. Saw that during high school, and it messed with me. Nothing significant ever happens when I see these in real life. These visions are always different from dreams, as it's just one still image for a long period of time, like I am locked into one position and can only move my eyes. I used to get them more frequently, but they recently died down. I've always wondered if it's just my brain seeing random images and I just connect the two together because they look similar, or if it's something else. I don't believe in paranormal activity, but the images I see are way too detailed and specific for it to be a pure coincidence sometimes. This one is called I Stumbled Across My Doppelganger at a Local Grocery Store and then never saw him again. I once saw a cashier at my local supermarket that looked oddly like me. I had a strong, nagging feeling that I somehow knew him fairly well, but I ignored it. That wasn't until I went to pay and he looked at me, squinted his eyes, and asked me if we knew each other. I told him that I felt the same, and we sort of just stood there staring at each other, trying to figure out what was happening. Same build, hair, glasses, age. We ended up agreeing that we had no clue. I paid and went on with my life. Never saw him again, even though I visited that specific supermarket multiple times afterwards. Spooky, weird, wholesome. It still baffles me to this day. That is really eerie. It's almost like, I don't know, like a soul connection or something like that. That's really creepy. When I was 13, I was awakened by a light coming outside of my window. It was small, maybe a little larger than a softball. I got up and looked out the window, and from what I could tell, it was just floating there. I wasn't scared or nervous, just very curious. I thought maybe one of my friends was trying to pull a prank or something. I decided to go back out and see what it was, and all I saw was a spherical ball of light floating in front of my window. I walked towards it to get a closer inspection, but as soon as I took a step in its direction, it shot up into the sky. I wasn't dreaming. I never went back to sleep that night. It was really odd, but I never felt scared. That's like aliens or something. That's like aliens or like somebody coming to visit you in the middle of the night, like a spirit, like a former loved one, a grandma, something. Super creepy. When I was 14, my dad bought me a necklace with a jeweled heart charm. It was very sparkly. A few months later, my dad suffered a brain aneurysm and was in the hospital. My sister and I had come home early from his house. I had the necklace on and went to take it off in my room. I dropped it. I couldn't see where it fell. I ran my hands all over the carpet, which was a light tan, so the necklace should have been visible. Looked under my dresser, even vacuumed my room, and nothing. Couldn't find it anywhere. 3 days later, my dad died in the hospital. I hadn't been home at all because we stayed at my grandparents'. The day he died was the first day I went home and into my room. My door was closed. No one had been in since I had last looked for my necklace. I remember having tears in my eyes as I opened my bedroom door and saw a shiny gleam of light went into my eye. I immediately saw the necklace on the middle of the carpet right where I had dropped it. I always thought it was a sign from him, and it definitely was, girl. Things like that do not happen for no reason. Definitely a sign from him of how much he loves you and that he's still there and wanted you to have this special gift from him. This one is really, really interesting. About 9 years ago, I headed into work on a normal day. My commute was somewhere around 70 miles, so a majority of my travel was on the turnpike. From home, I would take some back roads on the turnpike, then getting off the turnpike onto a state road with traffic lights for about a 10 to 15 minute ride to work. I had a habit of checking the time at certain checkpoints along the route to see if I was going to be late. On this one particular day, I got to work early. Very early. At least 20 minutes early. I cut 20 minutes off of my hour-and-a-half long ride. I was new at work and did not have any keys to get into the office. My first coworker showed up remarking that I was here early, and all I could do was nod in agreement. I could not remember the past hour of driving at all, but I still remembered one of my checkpoints, and nothing was out of the ordinary time-wise. So I sat at my desk and started figuring out some mathematics. I came to the conclusion that I had teleported from somewhere on the turnpike to the parking lot at work, because there was no way I had traveled roughly 30 miles at an average 120 miles per hour through a toll booth and highway with traffic lights. The only evidence against this conclusion is that I did not have the turnpike ticket, so I had in fact paid at the toll booth. So I have no idea what happened that day. That is so freaking scary. When I used to work a 9 to 5 and I would have to drive, you know, to and from work and everything, I would have these like moments where it's a very scary feeling. I think we all experience it, where it's like, oh my God, I do not remember driving the last couple of minutes. But that's a couple of minutes, not like literally losing your entire drive to work. I would be terrified if that happened to me. I was 5 or 6 years old and we were living on my grandparents' property up a small hill. My parents and I had stayed out late at my grandparents' place and we were walking back to ours. When we arrived, there was a weird glowing object hovering in our backyard. My mother and I looked at it from a window and my father went towards it. After that, it's kind of a blur, but the imagery has stuck with me for 25 years. Again, that's like an alien or some deceased loved one stuff. My grandpa died before I was born and I've seen some pictures of him. From what I gathered, he wore suits, coats, was slim, and had white hair. Now to the actual story. When I was 10 years old, I went onto the bus and my mom and I saw an elderly man that was looking at me directly in the eyes. It was a familiar face, and then I said to my mom, he looked a lot like my grandpa. He wore a gray suit, a coat, and I think a raincoat. The elder was keeping his balance, although the bus was moving and drifting. One thing I will not forget is his face. He looked straight into me. His eyes were empty and his face was pale. The whole memory is generally creepy. My mom confirmed the story and said he indeed acted and looked like my grandpa. The energy and connection that I felt is, to this day, unexplainable. See, that's like scary, but I always think that like messages from our loved ones, we don't feel particularly scared, or we shouldn't. You know, like I feel like that kid wouldn't have been creeped out, or maybe his grandpa would have smiled or something like that. It just seems like such a weird, kind of creepy and scary story, you know what I mean? There was this one time where I woke up and went to my bathroom to brush my teeth, and in front of my door was this football-sized blood puddle. I was all alone that night with no wounds, and my pets were all inside of my flat, none of which were missing or wounded. My windows were closed, so my cat would not have been able to scratch something outside and eat it in front of my door. So this person just found a puddle of blood in front of their door in the middle of the night. That's like proper cause to just like move out. That would scare the absolute freaking crap out of me. This is called my sister and I experienced physical pain at the exact same time. Mine and my sister's hearts started hurting at the same time. I know because we were walking next to each other, and suddenly, for the first and hopefully last time in my life, I had gotten heart/chest pain so bad I thought I was gonna go right then and there. Then when it was over, about 3 seconds later, my sister said, "Oh, my heart just hurt really bad." It was the first time a pain like this had happened to her as well. What could be the explanation for this? The only thing that I can think of is if they're twins, a lot of times twins have like shared experiences like that where they can feel each other's pain, but honestly, it's anyone's guess. I would be really interested to know if they had a family member pass around this time, or a family member that was struggling of a heart condition or had passed of a heart condition. This is called, we spotted an animal as large as a human that ran on 2 legs. What was that hunchbacked thing running through the bushes while my friends and I were walking in a dry river at 1 a.m. when we were kids? This happened about 10 years ago when I was 12 in Tucson, Arizona. In all my life, I have never seen any large animal in this river, usually rattlesnakes and hares, but even those were very rare to see. And it's probably because it's surrounded by houses, stores, traffic, etc. Anyway, my friends and I always like to take our toy guns and play in the river late at night because the water it used to have carves out caves and holes in the dirt, and we would set up little camps around them. One night when we were out playing, we were all walking up the base of this hill that was near the center of the river. At the top it had bushes, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom over there," to my friends, and right after I said that, this figure appeared and ran through the bushes and down the side of the hill. Now the weird part is that it ran like a chimp does, with its back hunched over, its arms out front, and it was making this quiet grunting sound. It also had this sort of hop as it ran, very similar to a chimp. Some here said it was a cat or maybe a dog, but it couldn't be because it was big enough to be a man and it ran on 2 legs. It's possible that it was a homeless guy, but why would a homeless guy hang out in the middle of a piece of desert with no tent, blanket, or sleeping bag like most in the city do? After we ran off back to my friend's house, we decided to go back and investigate. We found nothing that would indicate a homeless person was there, unless the dude just likes to lay on the dirt with prickly bushes. Till this day, we occasionally bring it up and don't know what it could be. This one looks so creepy, and it's called I Was Saved from Death by a Disembodied Voice. I'm crossing the street to go home and everything turns blue, like a blue lens over a camera, and time basically stops. All I hear is a female voice saying, "Stop, don't move," and everything returns to normal while I'm still standing there in shock. A box truck flies, I literally have chills. A box truck flies past me at 60 miles per hour. Had that not happened, I know I would have been hit and killed on the spot. I don't know what happened, nor do I know how. That one is so creepy, like literally creeps me out so freaking bad, but I totally believe that that story is 100% true, and that was probably a gift from a loved one saving that person's life. This one is called In My Dreams, I Took a Trip to Hell. In college, I had a dream one night that my dad and I went to hell. We didn't suffer, and it wasn't even a nightmare. It was just a pleasant trip down there. When I woke up, I felt something in my bed. It was a piece of metal that I didn't recognize as anything. Asked my friends that live around my room if they knew what it was, and none of them did. Finally figured out that it was a lighter, looked up the serial number on it, and it turned out to be a World War II era Austrian Zippo. You can buy them cheap on Amazon. Later on, I showed it to my dad, and he said my grandfather had one just like it. I still don't know where it came from or how it got in my bed. That creeps me out really bad. That gives me a bad feeling too about like where his grandfather is. Like the fact that he had a pleasant dream about a trip to hell, like that's really freaking scary. Once when we were both about 13, my best friend was having a sleepover at my house, a common occurrence. And we had the camping tent set up in the backyard for whatever reason, so we decided to go sleep in there. Her mom showed up in their pickup truck all freaked out. And because we were in the backyard, she ended up talking to my parents in the house first. It turned out someone had called her, this was before cell phones and caller ID, pretending to be my friend, mentioning her name, crying and insisting something horrible had happened and asking to come get her. Her sister had a good alibi, though I don't remember what it was, and there wasn't anyone else who knew she was visiting that night. To this day, I wonder who made that call. This one is called I Can't Figure Out What Caused My Mother's Death. Why exactly my mother's died? The doctor said to me, keep in mind I was 11, that at some point her brain stopped telling her lungs to breathe and her heart to beat correctly, making her lose consciousness. I called 911 because she was turning red and having trouble standing. By the time I connected, she was on the ground and not responding. Her heartbeat was erratic when EMS came, but they couldn't get back with a defibrillator until they got to the hospital. They said it wasn't a heart attack or a stroke, but they could only tell us what it wasn't. After 2 weeks of being in a coma, we took her off of life support. She wasn't in the best shape, but did run a marathon the year before and was constantly moving, and only 37. I don't have the sense of time correct, but EMS quickly walked into the house, saw her upstairs, then had her out in the ambulance in 5 minutes after they saw her. Even though I hate the memory looking back, I do appreciate how they acted, because at the time I was upset they left wrappings and packages everywhere and broke our screen door. Still, I was young enough to be relieved they were bringing her to the hospital so quick. I thought it was a good thing. I at least want to know why she died physically. My stepfather tried explaining that brains are complicated and sometimes they stop working, but it didn't and doesn't help. Was it her diet? Dehydration? Had she been laying weird as she read, causing a clot or something? Maybe it was stress, as I wasn't being the best kid at the time. Who knows? I don't, and that's a problem. I know that's not necessarily paranormal, but definitely really eerie, and if that had happened to me, I can't imagine the sense of frustration I would feel over having to know why my family member passed away. So I definitely thought it was worth sharing with you all. This one is eerie. When I was around 7 or 8 or so, I lived right in the middle of the South Wales valleys. Tons of hill ranges and forests amongst the smattering of villages. One such village is where my grandma used to live. Our family would always go up there to see her, and I'd always meet my cousin there, who was roughly my age, so we got along well. In our bedroom, we'd go out and wander about the lake and hills nearby. One such time, we'd walked for about half an hour up the beaten path from the lake, towards the dense forest that we had not yet explored. We spent a couple of hours just walking about, climbing the trees with good footholds, just doing what kids do to pass time in a fairly empty landscape. While we were a couple of dozen feet up a tree, I heard a few twigs break in the distance behind us. I immediately was on edge, and in an effort not to scare my cousin, he was a little bit younger than me, I didn't call attention to it and instead fidgeted about so my vision could pass where I heard it. A couple of 100 feet away, I saw a shape poking out from behind a tree trunk, clearly in the shape of a head and shoulder, seemingly staring directly at us while attempting not to be seen. Not childlike either. Those were broad shoulders. I slowly started climbing down, and almost at the same time, the form moved back behind the trunk. I kept talking as normally as I could to my cousin, and as I started walking us back to the open hillside, I turned back, perhaps a little too worryingly, and my cousin followed my gaze. The shape was there again, behind another tree. Whoever they were, they had followed us towards the edge. I grabbed my cousin and we booked it, noping like never before. We stuck to wandering the lake after that. I still wonder who that was and what they wanted, but I assume the worst. Ugh. Again, not necessarily paranormal, although it could have been. Just very eerie and makes me wonder why. In college, I woke up on my hands and knees on my bed, incredibly dizzy. Went to my bathroom to throw up, and my face was covered in blood. Busted lip, busted nose, and a cut on my shoulder. Everyone thinks I was on drugs. I took like 2 hits from a joint earlier that night, but that was pretty normal, so it wasn't that. I do remember I had a really messed up dream about a bomb going off, and there was a big explosion, and that's why I woke up. Could I have punched myself in my sleep? There was no blood anywhere else in my room, not on the wall or the bed, so I think someone just beat the crap out of me in my sleep. I got along with all my roommates. I have no clue who could have done it or why. The reason that I think that one's paranormal is because of the dream that they had. Makes me wonder if they were having a past life experience that, I don't know, somehow translated into their current life, or just something creepy like that. I met my current partner of 10 years when she texted me because she didn't know whose number she had. We had never met before, and to this day, we have no idea how she got my number. Maybe it was a typo? That is so freaking weird. That's literally so weird that they met because she randomly had this person's number. Definitely fate bringing the two of you together. When I was 17, I woke up early and went to go see the sunrise over Lake Michigan. It was just after a storm, so there was a lot of trash and it smelled of dead fish. But the sand was smooth and you didn't smell the fish if you stood close to the water. The sunrise was beautiful. I saw a man jogging along the beach, north to south. He jogged up to me and said, "Hey, hi, do you believe in ghosts?" I said no, and he nodded and kept jogging south. I then looked back at the sunrise. I then remembered that there's no beach exit to the south, so I looked to see where he was jogging to, and he had disappeared. There weren't any footprints but mine. Was he messing with me or a ghost? Ugh, that one gives me total chills. Definitely a ghost. 100% a ghost. I have a vivid memory of watching The Simpsons with my family when I was young, and all of a sudden a horrible loud crash came from the kitchen. All of the dishes in one cupboard were broken on the floor with no explanation. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, or please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I love you all so very much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.